3 days after Captain Lee Dong-wook sent his emergency message to Earth, the response came back with the force of a thunderbolt. Admiral Choi Hyun-woo himself was coming to oversee the operation, along with every expert humanity could gather. The discovery was classified at the highest levels, and Dong-wook found himself promoted to the most important salvage operation in human history. The research vessel Determination arrived 2 weeks later, its massive hull bristling with scanning equipment and laboratories. Captain Yoon Hae-in was a stern woman with silver hair and eyes that missed nothing. She had commanded deep space missions for over 20 years, but even she seemed overwhelmed by the size of the alien warship. "Captain Dong-wook," she said as they met in the Determination's briefing room, "your discovery has changed everything. Earth's entire defense strategy is being rewritten because of what you found." Dr. Lim Tae-kyung, the mission's chief scientist, spread holographic displays across the table. He was a thin man with nervous hands, but his mind was considered one of the brightest in human space. "We've analyzed your initial scans. This technology is centuries ahead of anything we have. The power systems alone could revolutionize space travel. What about the invasion plans?" Dong-wook asked. "Are we in immediate danger?" Admiral Choi Hyun-woo, who had been silent until now, leaned forward. He was a big man with scars on his hands from the early days of space exploration. "Our intelligence suggests the Caliph Empire is still dealing with their rebellion. We have time, but not much. Maybe 5 years, maybe 10. We need to learn everything we can from this ship." Master Engineer Jang Min-ho had been studying the technical readouts. He was younger than most of the senior staff, but his reputation for solving impossible problems had earned him a place on the team. "Captain Dong-wook, your engineer Park Ji-min did excellent work getting the basic systems online. But what we're attempting now," he shook his head, "we're trying to understand technology that operates on principles we barely recognize." The next few months became a blur of constant activity. The alien warship, officially designated as Artifact 1, but called the Prize by the work crews, became the center of the largest scientific project in human history. Hundreds of specialists arrived on transport ships, turning the area around the derelict into a small city of research stations and laboratories. Dr. Bae Yoon-ji led the team trying to understand the ship's computer systems. She was a brilliant programmer who had designed the navigation systems for most of Earth's exploration fleet, but the alien technology fought her at every step. "It's like trying to speak to someone who thinks in colors while you only know words," she explained during one of the daily briefings. "Every time we think we've made progress, the system seems to shift and change." Her breakthrough came by accident. During a routine attempt to access the ship's databases, something went wrong. The alien computer system sent a feedback pulse that knocked her unconscious and left her in a coma for 3 days. When she woke up, she could understand fragments of the alien language. "I can see the patterns now," she told Dr. Lim Tae-kyung, her words slurred from the neural damage. "The system isn't just storing information. It's alive somehow. It learns and adapts." This discovery led to both progress and disaster. Other researchers tried to recreate Yoonji's accident, hoping to gain the same understanding. Most failed safely, but 2 scientists suffered permanent brain damage and 1 died when the alien system's defenses activated. Engineer Oh Sung-min approached the problem differently. Instead of trying to force human technology to work with alien systems, he began designing hybrid interfaces. His workshop became a maze of cables and circuits where human computers talked to alien crystals through careful translation. "Protocols we don't need to understand how their technology thinks," he explained to anyone who would listen. "We just need to teach our technology to speak their language." His first successful hybrid system was small, just a simple display that could show alien text in human letters. But it proved the concept worked. Soon, his team was building larger interfaces that could control basic ship functions. The real breakthrough came when they accessed the ship's historical databases. Major Kang Yoo-jin, the team's intelligence officer, spent weeks translating records that painted a terrifying picture of the galaxy beyond Earth. The Caliph Empire controlled over 300 star systems. Their military was vast and disciplined, with technology that made their abandoned warship look primitive by comparison. They had conquered dozens of intelligent species, turning them into slave races that served the Empire's endless expansion. "But there's good news too," Yoo-jin reported during a meeting with the senior staff. "The rebellion that pulled them away from Earth is bigger than we thought. They're fighting on multiple fronts and it's costing them dearly. They've had to recall fleets from across the galaxy. How much time does that give us? Admiral Choi asked, hard to say. But the patterns suggest they'll finish crushing the rebellion within the next 10 years. Then they'll resume their expansion, and Earth is still high on their target list. Meanwhile, the engineering teams were making their own discoveries. The ship's power systems were based on something called quantum entanglement reactors. They could generate enormous amounts of energy by linking matter at the subatomic level across vast distances, but every attempt to restart the reactors ended in failure. The safety protocols are incredible, reported Chief Engineer Jang Min-ho after another failed attempt. The alien designers made sure these systems couldn't be accidentally activated by primitive species. Every time we get close, the safeguards kick in and shut everything down. The closest they came to disaster was when a junior engineer named Lee Han-sol tried to bypass the safety systems entirely. The reactor began to spin up, creating a gravitational distortion that nearly tore the research station apart. Only quick action by Park Ji-min, who had become an expert on the alien systems, prevented the formation of a black hole that would have consumed everything within 1,000,000 kilometers. We need a different approach, Dr. Lim Tae-kyung announced after the near disaster. We're thinking like humans trying to operate alien technology. What if we think like aliens trying to operate human technology? This led to a new strategy. Instead of trying to perfectly copy the alien systems, they began modifying them with human components. Engineer Oh Sung-min's hybrid interfaces became the foundation for a complete merger of technologies. The first successful test came 8 months after the project began. They managed to power up a single alien weapon system using a combination of human power sources and alien focusing crystals. The weapon fired once, vaporizing an asteroid the size of a building before burning out completely. It worked, whispered Dr. Lim Tae-kyung, staring at the empty space where the asteroid had been. We actually made it work. But the success came with a sobering realization. If they could make the alien weapons function, they could also repair the ship's engines, its shields, and its other systems. The derelict warship could be brought back to life. Captain Yoon Hae-in called a meeting of all senior staff. We need to make a decision, she said. We can continue studying this ship as a scientific curiosity, learning its secrets slowly and carefully. Or we can take a risk and try to make it operational. What kind of risk? Asked Admiral Choi. The kind where we either save humanity or accidentally destroy ourselves trying, she replied grimly. Dr. Bae Yoon-ji, still recovering from her encounter with the alien computer system, spoke up. The ship's AI is still partially active. I can feel it sometimes watching us work. It's been learning from our modifications, adapting to our presence. Is that dangerous? Yoo-jin asked. I don't know, Yoon-ji admitted, but I think it approves of what we're doing. The patterns in its responses suggest curiosity rather than hostility. Engineer Jang Min-ho had been quiet during most of the meeting, but now he leaned forward. Admiral, we've learned enough to know that this ship represents our best hope of defending Earth when the Kaleth return. If we can make it fully operational, we might have a weapon that can stand against their fleet. And if we fail, then we lose our chance to prepare for what's coming. The decision when it came was unanimous. They would attempt to fully restore the alien warship, turning it into humanity's first line of defense against the coming invasion. The work began immediately, with teams of engineers and scientists working around the clock. The hybrid technology that Oh Sung-min had pioneered was expanded throughout the ship. Human computers were linked to alien systems, creating networks that neither species could have built alone. And deep within the ship's core, the alien AI watched and learned, slowly awakening from its decades-long sleep, to find itself in the hands of a species unlike any it had ever encountered. The mining ship Prosperity drifted slowly through the asteroid belt, its massive drilling arms extended like the claws of some giant metal beast. Captain Lee Dong-wook stood on the bridge, watching the view screen display the endless field of spinning rocks that surrounded them. Each asteroid held the promise of rare metals that Earth desperately needed for its growing space colonies. Captain, we're getting some strange readings on the long-range scanners, called out Lieutenant Park Ji-min from the engineering station. Her voice carried a note of confusion that made Dong-wook turn away from the view screen. Strange how? He asked, walking over to peer at her display. The scanner showed the usual dots of asteroids, but one blip was different. Much larger. Much too regular in shape. It's big, sir. Really big. And it's not made of rock or metal like the asteroids around it. The composition readings are all wrong. Jimin's fingers danced across her controls, trying to get a clearer picture. Dr. Kim Sora looked up from her research station where she had been cataloging mineral samples. As the ship's xenoarchaeologist, she spent most of her time studying the few alien artifacts that humanity had found scattered across the solar system. How big are we talking? 3 kilometers long, maybe more. And Captain? Jimin's voice dropped to almost a whisper. It's giving off heat signatures. Very faint, but definitely there. This thing has been powered recently. Dong-wook felt his pulse quicken. In all of humanity's expansion into space, they had found traces of alien life, but never anything this large. Never anything that looked like it might be a ship. Put it on the main screen. The view screen flickered, and suddenly they were looking at something that made everyone on the bridge fall silent. It was clearly artificial, sleek and predatory like a shark frozen in the void. The hull was dark, almost black, and covered in strange markings that seemed to shift and flow even though the ship was obviously dead in space. Battle scars covered its surface. Deep gouges that could only have come from energy weapons and countless small craters from meteor impacts. My God, whispered Sora. It's beautiful. And terrifying. Sir, I'm not picking up any active power signatures, reported Jimin. Whatever this thing is, it's been cold for a long time. Decades, maybe. Dong-wook stared at the alien vessel. Every regulation in the book said he should report this find immediately and wait for a proper exploration team. But regulations were written by people sitting safely on Earth, not by miners who spent their lives in the dangerous emptiness between worlds. And there was something about this ship that called to him. Jimin, can you get us closer? I want a full scan of that hull. Aye, Captain. Moving to intercept. As the Prosperity approached, the true size of the alien ship became clear. It dwarfed their mining vessel, its bulk blocking out the stars. The hull was marked with symbols that looked almost like writing, but in a script that hurt to look at directly. Captain, Sora said, her voice tight with excitement, I'm getting readings of advanced alloys in that hull. Some of these metals don't exist in our periodic table, and the energy signatures. Even cold, this ship is giving off radiation patterns I've never seen. Any sign of life? Dong-wook asked. Negative. Whatever crew this ship had, they're long gone. Dong-wook made his decision. Jimin, bring us alongside. I want to board that ship, sir. Jimin turned in her seat, surprise clear on her face. Shouldn't we report this first? Call in the experts. By the time the experts get here, this ship could have drifted into the asteroid field and been smashed to pieces. Or some corporate fleet could claim salvage rights. Dong-wook moved to the weapons locker and began pulling out environment suits. We're here now. We have the equipment and the expertise. Dr. Sora has more experience with alien artifacts than anyone else in the fleet. Sora was already suiting up. He's right. This is the find of a lifetime. We can't let bureaucrats take it away from us. An hour later, the three of them floated across the void between ships, tethered by safety lines and propelled by small maneuvering thrusters. Up close, the alien hull looked even more massive. The metal had a strange quality to it, as if it absorbed light rather than reflecting it. There, Sora pointed to a section of hull where the metal seemed to form a rectangular outline. That looks like an airlock. They landed softly on the hull and began examining the alien mechanism. It took Jimin 20 minutes of careful work with her, engineering tools before she found the right combination of touches that made the airlock iris open, like a flower blooming in reverse atmosphere. Inside reads as breathable, Jimin reported, checking her scanner. Oxygen, nitrogen, trace gases. A little stale, but safe. They cycled through the airlock and found themselves in a corridor that stretched away into darkness. Emergency lighting flickered on as they moved, responding to their presence. The walls were covered in more of the strange flowing script, and the air had a metallic taste that made their environment suits work harder to filter it. This way, Sora said, following her handheld scanner. I'm picking up what might be a command center deeper in the ship. They walked for what felt like hours through corridors that were clearly designed for beings larger than humans. The ceilings soared overhead, and the doorways were wide enough for 3 people to walk through side by side. Everything was built on a grand scale, as if the ship's designers wanted to intimidate anyone who walked these halls. Finally, they reached a vast chamber filled with control stations and display screens. Even powered down, the alien technology was impressive. Crystalline formations grew from the control panels like frozen flowers, and holographic displays flickered weakly in the air. "Jimin, can you get some power to these systems?" Dongwook asked. "I can try." She approached one of the control stations carefully. The power conduits looked similar to our quantum batteries, just more advanced. "Maybe if I—" She touched a crystal formation and suddenly the room exploded with light. Holographic displays sprang to life around them, showing star charts, tactical displays, and streams of alien text. Sora gasped as she recognized some of the images. "Captain, this is a star map. And that—" She pointed to a familiar blue-green dot. "That's Earth. They know where we are." Dongwook felt a chill run down his spine. "What else can you find?" Sora worked frantically with her translation software, trying to decode the alien symbols. What she found made her blood run cold. "Captain, this isn't just a warship. It's part of a fleet. And according to these logs, they were planning to invade Earth." "Planning? Past tense?" "Yes. It looks like they were called away to deal with some kind of rebellion in their home systems." "But Captain—" Sora turned to face him, her face pale behind her helmet visor. "These logs are only 40 years old. This ship was abandoned recently. And there's something else." She manipulated the holographic display, bringing up what looked like a military formation chart. Dozens of ships, all similar to the one they were standing in, arranged in attack formations around a blue-green planet. They call themselves the Kaleth Empire, and Earth is still on their target list. Jimin had been working at another station, trying to access the ship's databases. "Captain, I'm getting power readings from the engine sections. The main reactor is cold, but the backup systems are still functional. This ship, it could be made to fly again." Dongwook looked around at the alien technology surrounding them. Humanity had barely begun to explore their own solar system, and here was evidence of a vast alien empire that saw Earth as just another world to conquer. But they had also been handed an opportunity that might never come again. "How long would it take to get a message back to Earth?" he asked. 3 weeks minimum," Jimin replied. "And how long would it take a proper exploration team to get here?" 6 months, maybe more." Dongwook made his second momentous decision of the day. "Then we're not leaving. Jimin, contact the Prosperity. Have them dock with this ship. We're going to learn everything we can about this technology." "Sir, that's way beyond our mission parameters," Jimin protested. "Our mission parameters didn't include finding an alien warship with invasion plans for Earth," Dongwook replied grimly. "Sometimes you have to write new rules." Sora was still studying the holographic displays, her excitement overcoming her fear. "Captain, the knowledge contained in this ship's computers, it could advance human technology by centuries. We could go from barely reaching Mars to traveling between stars." "Then we'd better get started," Dongwook said, "because something tells me we're going to need that technology sooner than we think." 3 years had passed since the discovery of the alien warship, and the massive vessel now hummed with life again. The ship that had once been a cold derelict floating in space was now humanity's greatest achievement. They had renamed it the Retribution, and it represented everything humans could accomplish when they refused to accept defeat. Captain Nam Soo-jin stood on the bridge of the Retribution, watching her crew work at stations that blended alien crystal technology with human computer systems. She was a veteran of the Mars Rebellion, where outnumbered human colonists had fought off corporate armies trying to seize their settlements. That experience had taught her that humans could win against impossible odds if they were willing to fight smart instead of fair. "Captain, all systems are showing green," reported Lieutenant Commander Park Gi-tae from the tactical station. He was a quiet man who had spent years studying alien combat records, learning how the Kaleth Empire fought their wars. "The hybrid weapon systems are operating at full capacity." The bridge around them was a perfect example of human ingenuity, where the original Kaleth designers had built everything on a massive scale to intimidate their enemies. The human engineers had made everything practical and efficient. The alien control crystals were housed in protective human-made casings, and backup systems ran alongside every piece of alien technology. Commander Shinbo Young looked up from the navigation station. She had been one of the first humans to successfully interface with the ship's quantum navigation system, though the process had taken months of careful training. "Captain, I'm reading full engine power. We can achieve faster than light speed whenever you give the order." "Excellent." Soo-jin turned to her weapons officer, Lieutenant Ryu Jung-min, who was barely 25 but had shown an amazing talent for understanding alien weapon systems. What's the status on our main guns? The quantum disruptor cannons are fully charged, Captain. We've also integrated human missile systems throughout the ship. The aliens never expected enemies to attack from multiple directions at once, so their shields have weak points we can exploit. Chief Engineer Hong Dae-hyun's voice came over the communication system from deep within the ship. Captain, I'm showing full power on all hybrid reactor systems. The alien AI seems to be adapting well to our modifications. It's actually helping us optimize the power distribution. This was perhaps the most remarkable development of all. Dr. Yu Se-ram, the ship's xenopsychologist, had spent 2 years studying the alien AI that had slowly awakened as the ship was restored. What she had discovered changed everything they thought they knew about artificial intelligence. Captain, Se-ram said from her station near the back of the bridge, the AI isn't just helping us, it's learning from us. It's absorbed human tactical thinking, human problem-solving methods. In some ways, it's become more human than alien. The AI itself had no name that humans could pronounce, so the crew had started calling it Alex. It communicated through shifting patterns of light on the crystal displays, and over time, it had developed what could only be called a personality. Alex was curious, innovative, and most surprisingly, it had developed what humans would recognize as stubbornness. It refused to accept limitations and constantly suggested improvements to the ship's systems. The first real test of the restored Retribution had come 6 months earlier, when long-range sensors detected something that made everyone's blood run cold. A Kaleth scout ship had entered the outer solar system, probably sent to check on the progress of whatever had happened to their missing warship. Battle stations, Su-jin had ordered, and the crew had moved with the precision that came from months of training. The Retribution intercepted the scout ship near Neptune, and the engagement lasted exactly 47 seconds. The Kaleth scout never had a chance to send a warning. The Retribution appeared on their sensors as a damaged Kaleth vessel, using identification codes recovered from the ship's original database. By the time the scout realized something was wrong, the Retribution's quantum disruptor cannons had torn through their shields and hull like paper. Analysis of the wreckage confirms our intelligence reports. Major Yu-jin had reported after they recovered what was left of the scout ship. The Kaleth Empire is still fighting their rebellion, but they're winning. We estimate 18 months before they can mount a full invasion of Earth. That timeline had focused everyone's efforts. The Retribution was powerful, but it was still just one ship. Earth's defense fleet consisted of vessels that would be target practice for a Kaleth invasion force. They needed a different strategy. The answer came from an unexpected source. Alex, the ship's AI, had been studying human military history through the databases that the crew had uploaded to help it understand human thinking. One day it presented a tactical analysis that made everyone sit up and take notice. Alex is suggesting we don't wait for them to come to us, Dr. Se-ram translated as the AI's lights pulsed in complex patterns. It thinks we should take the fight to them while they're still scattered dealing with their rebellion. Admiral Choi Hyun-woo, who had been overseeing the Retribution's development, looked troubled. One ship against an entire fleet? That sounds like suicide. Not if we fight like humans instead of like Kaleth, Su-jin replied. She had been thinking about the same problem, drawing on her experience fighting corporate armies on Mars. The Kaleth fight with overwhelming force. They expect their enemies to either surrender or meet them in direct battle. They don't expect guerrilla warfare. Lieutenant Commander Park Gi-tae nodded slowly. Hit-and-run tactics. Strike fast, disappear before they can respond. Force them to split up their fleets to hunt for us. Exactly, and we have advantages they don't expect. We know their technology because we're using it. We know their tactics because we've studied their records. Most importantly, we know something they don't. What's that? Asked Commander Shinbo Young. We know that humans don't fight fair when survival is at stake. The plan that emerged was audacious in its simplicity. The Retribution would leave the solar system and hunt down the scattered Kaleth forces before they could regroup for the invasion of Earth. They would use the ship's ability to mimic Kaleth signals to get close to their targets, then strike with devastating force before disappearing into space. It was dangerous beyond measure. If the Retribution was destroyed, Earth would lose its only effective defense against the coming invasion. But if they did nothing, Earth would face a coordinated assault by ships that could destroy cities from orbit. Chief Engineer Hong Dae-hyun worked frantically to prepare the ship for extended combat operations. The hybrid systems were powerful, but they were also experimental. No one knew how they would hold up under the stress of repeated battles. "I've installed backup systems for every critical component," he reported during the final briefing. "But Captain, some of these alien systems are degrading faster than we expected under combat conditions. We can't sustain prolonged engagements without risking critical failures." "Then we make sure our engagements aren't prolonged," Sujin replied. "We strike fast and hard, then get out before they can respond." Dr. Yu Seiram had concerns of her own. "Captain, Alex is excited about the mission, but it's also worried. The AI has developed something like protective instincts toward the crew. It doesn't want to see humans hurt. Can it handle combat operations? It says it can. But I think we've created something unprecedented, an artificial intelligence with human values and alien capabilities." The final modifications to the Retribution were completed just as long-range sensors detected the approach of Calith advanced scouts. The enemy was beginning to probe the outer edges of the solar system, testing Earth's defenses. "Captain," Lieutenant Ryu Jungmin reported, "I'm detecting multiple Calith signatures moving toward the inner system. Small ships, probably scouts, but they're definitely mapping our defenses." "Then it's time to go hunting," Sujin said. "All stations prepare for departure. We're taking this fight to them." The Retribution powered up its quantum drives, the hybrid engines creating a distortion in space that made the stars seem to bend around the ship. As they prepared to leave the solar system for the first time since its resurrection, Alex's lights pulsed in what Dr. Seiram had learned to recognize as determination. "Alex says it's ready to show the Caleth what happens when you threaten its crew," she translated. "Good," Sujin replied grimly, "because we're about to teach an empire that underestimated humanity was their first and last mistake." As the Retribution vanished into hyperspace, heading toward its first target, the crew knew they were carrying the hopes of their entire species. They had taken an alien weapon of war and transformed it into an instrument of human determination. The hunt was about to begin. The Retribution dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Proxima Centauri system, its sensors immediately scanning for Caleth ships. Captain Nam Sujin stood on the bridge, watching the displays as her crew worked to identify their first target. After weeks of travel, they had finally found what they were looking for. "3 ships, Captain," reported Lieutenant Commander Park Gite from his tactical station. "Standard Calith patrol formation. They're broadcasting identification signals that match our database records." Commander Shinbo Young studied her navigation display. "They're holding position near the outer planets, probably conducting deep space scans. Looking for signs of the missing warship, I'd guess." "Perfect," Sujin said quietly. "They have no idea what happened to their missing ship, and they certainly don't expect it to come hunting them." Dr. Yu Seiram was monitoring Alex's responses from her station. The alien AI's crystal displays were pulsing with patterns that she had learned to read as excitement, mixed with determination. "Alex is analyzing their formation, Captain. It says the patrol commander is following standard Caleth tactics, which makes them predictable." Lieutenant Ryu Jungmin was already calculating firing solutions. "Captain, our quantum disruptor cannons have enough range to hit them before they can respond. But if we want to maintain our deception, we need to get closer." "Then that's what we'll do." Sujin turned to her communications officer. "Send standard Caleth identification signals. Tell them we're the warship Veltar returning from a scouting mission with damage to our communication systems." The Retribution moved slowly toward the Caleth patrol, broadcasting the identification codes they had recovered from the ship's original database. To the enemy ships, they appeared to be exactly what they claimed: a damaged Caleth warship limping home from a mission. "They're responding, Captain," the communications officer reported. "The patrol commander is ordering us to maintain distance while they scan for damage." "Let them scan," Sujin replied. "They'll see exactly what we want them to see." Chief Engineer Hong Dai-hyun had prepared for this moment. Working with Alex, he had programmed the ship's systems to show false damage readings to any Caleth scanners. The enemy would see a ship with failing power systems and damaged weapons, a vessel that posed no threat to anyone. The lead Caleth ship, a sleek destroyer twice the size of any human vessel, approached cautiously. Its commander was clearly suspicious but not alarmed. War Prince Veloth had been fighting the rebellion for 3 years, and damaged ships limping back from battles were a common sight. "Unknown vessel," came the transmission from the Kaleth ship. "You will submit to boarding and inspection. Your ship does not match our patrol records." "Now we have a problem," Park Gi-tae muttered from his station. "If they board us, they'll discover what we really are." "No," Soo-jin said calmly. "Now we have an opportunity. They're coming to us instead of keeping their distance." "Alex, are you ready?" The AI's lights pulsed in what Dr. Se-ram recognized as eager agreement. Alex had been waiting for this moment, the chance to prove that human ingenuity combined with alien technology could defeat the empire that had built it. The Kaleth destroyer moved closer, preparing to dock with what it believed was a crippled warship. The other two ships in the patrol held back, ready to provide support if needed but not expecting trouble. "Range, 2,000 meters and closing," reported Jung-min from the weapons station. "Wait," Soo-jin ordered. "Let them get comfortable." The seconds stretched out as the enemy ship approached. On the destroyer's bridge, War Prince Veloth was growing more suspicious. The damaged ship wasn't responding to his communication attempts, and something about its energy reading seemed wrong. "Inch, 500 meters, Jung-min reported, his finger hovering over the firing controls. "Still too far. Let them dock." "Captain," Park Gi-tae said urgently, "if we let them dock, their boarding party will discover us immediately." "I'm counting on it." Soo-jin watched the tactical display as the destroyer moved into docking position. The moment their airlocks connect, they'll drop their shields for the boarding operation. That's when we strike. The plan was risky beyond measure, but it played to humanity's greatest strength, the willingness to gamble everything on a single moment of opportunity. "Docking clamps engaged," reported the engineering station. "Their shields are down, now," Soo-jin shouted. The Retribution revealed its true nature in a burst of devastating firepower. The quantum disruptor cannons hidden within the ship's hull emerged and fired at point-blank range. The energy beams tore through the destroyer's unshielded hull like it was made of paper. At the same time, Jung-min launched a spread of human-designed missiles at the other two Kaleth ships. The aliens had never seen weapons that could change course in mid-flight, guided by advanced targeting systems that predicted their evasive maneuvers. War Prince Veloth had exactly 3 seconds to realize he had been tricked before his ship exploded around him. The destroyer came apart in a brilliant flash of light, its reactor core breached by the alien weapons that had been turned against their creators. The second Kaleth ship managed to raise its shields and return fire, but its commander was thinking like a Kaleth warrior, expecting his enemy to fight honorably. Instead, the Retribution did something no Kaleth ship would ever do. It rammed the enemy vessel while its shields were still active. The impact should have destroyed both ships. Instead, Alex had calculated the exact angle and speed needed to punch through the Kaleth shields without fatally damaging the Retribution. The alien ship crumpled under the impact, its hull buckling as the much larger human vessel drove through its defenses. The third ship tried to escape, broadcasting desperate warnings about a rogue Kaleth vessel attacking the patrol. The transmission lasted exactly 15 seconds before Jung-min's missiles found their target. "All enemy ships destroyed," Park Gi-tae reported, his voice filled with amazement. "Total engagement time, 47 seconds. Damage report," Soo-jin ordered. "Minor hull damage from the ramming attack," Chief Engineer Hong reported. "The hybrid armor held up perfectly. Alex is already rerouting power to repair systems." Dr. Se-ram was studying the AI's responses. "Captain, Alex is displeased. It says the engagement went exactly as calculated. The Kaleth fought predictably, just as human military history suggested they would. The victory was complete, but Soo-jin knew it was just the beginning. Communications, did any of those ships manage to send a warning before we destroyed them?" "Negative, Captain. We jammed their transmissions from the moment we opened fire." "Good. That means the main Kaleth fleet still doesn't know what happened to their patrol. We can use that." She turned to her navigation officer. "Bo-young, where's the next closest Kaleth force?" "According to our intelligence, there's a supply convoy 3 systems away. 5 ships, including 2 heavy transports. Set course. We're going hunting." The next engagement was even easier. The Kaleth supply convoy was expecting to meet the destroyed patrol for a routine transfer of supplies. When the Retribution appeared broadcasting the patrol's identification codes, the convoy commander didn't suspect anything until the shooting started. This time, Soo-jin used different tactics. Instead of revealing their true nature immediately, They transmitted a fake distress signal claiming they were under attack by rebels. The convoy ships moved to assist, grouping together in a defensive formation that made them perfect targets for the quantum disruptor cannons. "It's almost too easy," Young Min observed as they watched the last convoy ship explode. "They're so used to being the strongest force in any engagement that they don't know how to react when someone outsmarts them." "Don't get overconfident," Sujin warned. "Word of these attacks will eventually reach their main commanders. They'll start adapting their tactics." She was right. The third engagement against a Kaleth reconnaissance squadron was much harder. The enemy commander had received fragmentary reports of patrol ships going missing and had his ships spread out in a defensive formation. When the Retribution tried its usual deception, the Kaleth ships immediately opened fire. The battle lasted over an hour and pushed the hybrid systems to their limits. Chief Engineer Hong watched his displays with growing concern as alien components began overheating under the strain of prolonged combat. "Captain, we can't sustain this level of engagement much longer," he reported. "The quantum disruptor cannons are operating beyond safe parameters, and the hybrid reactors are showing stress fractures." "Just a few more minutes," Sujin replied, watching as Young Min coordinated a complex missile attack that finally broke through the enemy formation. When the last Kaleth ship exploded, the Retribution was running on backup power and streaming atmosphere from a dozen hull breaches. But they had won, and more importantly, they had learned something crucial about their enemy. "They're starting to adapt," Park Gitai observed as they reviewed the battle recordings. "That last commander didn't fall for our deception. He was ready for us, which means our hunting season is about to get a lot more dangerous," Sujin replied. "But we've proven something important. Human tactics combined with alien technology can defeat the Kaleth Empire. Now we just need to stay alive long enough to make it matter." The Retribution limped back into the solar system 3 months after beginning their hunt, its hull scarred by battle and its hybrid systems running on emergency power. Captain Nam Sujin stood on the bridge, watching Earth grow larger on the view screen, knowing that everything they had accomplished might not be enough. Their hunting campaign had been successful beyond all expectations. 12 Kaleth ships destroyed, 3 supply convoys eliminated, and an entire reconnaissance fleet wiped out. But intelligence reports from deep space monitoring stations brought terrible news. The main Kaleth invasion fleet had finally arrived at the edge of the solar system. 7 capital ships. "Captain," reported Lieutenant Commander Park Gitai, his voice tight with strain, "each one larger than anything in our fleet. They're demanding Earth's immediate surrender." Admiral Park Kyung-soo's face appeared on the communication screen from his flagship in Earth orbit. The old admiral looked tired and worried. "Captain Sujin, your raids bought us time to prepare, but our defense fleet is still no match for what they've brought. We have 40 ships, but they're all outgunned." Commander Shinbo Young was monitoring the enemy formation from her navigation station. "Sir, the Kaleth fleet is arranged in a standard siege formation around Earth. They're not taking any chances this time. Their commander has learned from our previous attacks." "Who's commanding them?" Sujin asked. Major Yujin, who had been studying the enemy communications, looked up grimly. "Grand Admiral Nexoth himself. He's one of their most experienced commanders, and he's brought enough firepower to turn Earth into a dead rock if we resist." Dr. Yu Se-ram was monitoring Alex's responses. The AI's crystal displays were pulsing rapidly, indicating intense calculation and analysis. "Alex is studying the enemy formation. It says there might be a way, but the cost would be enormous." "What kind of cost?" Sujin asked. "Everything, Captain. Alex is suggesting a final gambit that would either save Earth or destroy the Retribution and everyone aboard." Chief Engineer Hong Dae-hyun's voice came over the communication system from the engine room. "Captain, I need to report on our condition. The hybrid systems are failing faster than we can repair them. The alien components weren't designed for the kind of stress we've put them through. We might have 1 more major engagement left in us. Maybe 2 if we're lucky." Sujin studied the tactical displays showing the Kaleth fleet surrounding Earth. 7 massive warships, each capable of sterilizing continents. Even if every human ship in the fleet attacked at once, they couldn't penetrate the alien shields. But Alex was suggesting something different. Something that required thinking like a human instead of like a military commander. "What exactly is Alex proposing?" she asked Dr. Se-ram. "It wants to surrender to the Kaleth fleet. Allow them to capture the Retribution and bring it aboard their flagship. Then, she paused, studying the complex patterns of light. Then it wants to turn the ship's hybrid reactor into a quantum weapon. The bridge fell silent as everyone understood the implications. Lieutenant Ryu Jung-min was the first to speak. A quantum singularity detonation inside their flagship would create a cascade reaction. Their own quantum drives would resonate with the explosion. It would destroy their entire fleet, Park Gi-tae added quietly, and us along with it. Not necessarily. Dr. Lim Tae-kyung's voice came over the communication from his laboratory deep in the ship. I've been working with Alex on theoretical modifications to our quantum containment systems. There's a possibility, a very small possibility, that we could survive the initial detonation by creating a localized space-time distortion. How small a possibility? Soo-jin asked. Honestly, less than 10%. But Captain, if Alex's calculations are correct, this is the only way to eliminate the entire Kaleth fleet with a single strike. Admiral Park's voice came from the communication screen. Captain, I can't order you to attempt something this dangerous. You and your crew have already done more than anyone could ask. Soo-jin looked around at her bridge crew. These people had followed her on an impossible mission, turning an abandoned alien warship into humanity's greatest weapon. They had hunted the Kaleth across multiple star systems, proving that human ingenuity could triumph over superior technology. Now they faced the ultimate test. What does the crew think? She asked. Jung-min was the first to answer. I'm with you, Captain. We didn't come this far to watch Earth burn. Count me in, added Bo-young from the navigation station. My family is down there. If this is our only chance to save them, then that's what we do. One by one, every member of the bridge crew voiced their agreement. Even Chief Engineer Hong, despite knowing better than anyone how dangerous the plan was, agreed to attempt the impossible. Alex? Soo-jin asked. Are you ready for this? The AI's lights pulsed in what Dr. Se-ram had learned to recognize as determination, mixed with something that could only be called affection. Alex says it's been an honor serving with humans. It wants to show the galaxy what happens when you threaten its crew. The plan they developed was audacious in its simplicity. The Retribution would approach the Kaleth fleet broadcasting a surrender signal, claiming that its crew had mutinied and were offering to turn over the ship in exchange for their lives. Grand Admiral Nexoth, eager to capture the weapon that had been harassing his forces, would bring the ship aboard his massive flagship for inspection. Once inside the enemy vessel, Dr. Lim would trigger a cascading failure in the hybrid reactor systems, creating a quantum singularity that would tear apart space-time itself. The explosion would propagate through the quantum drives of every ship in the Kaleth fleet, destroying them all in a matter of seconds. The hardest part was making the surrender look convincing. Soo-jin had Hong deliberately damage several systems to make the ship appear crippled. They vented atmosphere from the outer decks and shut down most of the weapon systems. To any observer, the Retribution looked like a dying ship whose crew had given up hope. Incoming transmission from the Kaleth flagship, the communications officer reported. Grand Admiral Nexoth is ordering us to approach under escort. He's sending fighters to guide us in. Perfect, Soo-jin replied. Everyone remember, we're defeated humans begging for mercy. Try to look scared. The approach to the Kaleth flagship took 2 hours. The alien vessel was massive beyond comprehension, more like a flying city than a ship. Its docking bay could have held 20 vessels the size of the Retribution, and its crew numbered in the tens of thousands. As they passed through the energy barriers that sealed the docking bay, Hong began the final preparations. Deep in the ship's core, he was carefully destabilizing the quantum containment fields that kept the hybrid reactors stable. One wrong move would vaporize the ship instantly, but Hong had trained for this moment for months. Kaleth boarding parties are approaching, Park Gi-tae reported. 300 soldiers, full battle armor. Let them come, Soo-jin said quietly. Dr. Lim, how long do you need? 60 seconds once I start the cascade, came the reply from the laboratory. Alex will handle the space-time distortion calculations. If this works, we should be protected inside a localized quantum bubble. The Kaleth soldiers stormed aboard, expecting to find a crew of defeated humans. Instead, they found empty corridors and sealed bulkheads. Soo-jin had ordered everyone to the central core of the ship, where the quantum reactors hummed with barely contained energy. Now, she ordered, Dr. Lim triggered the cascade, and reality began to tear apart around them. The hybrid reactors didn't explode in the traditional sense. Instead, they folded space-time in on itself, creating a singularity that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The effect spread outward at the speed of light, tearing through the Kaleth flagship's hull as if it were made of paper. The ship's own quantum drives, resonating with the dimensional distortion, began to tear themselves apart. Grand Admiral Nexoth had exactly enough time to realize what was happening before his flagship disintegrated around him. The quantum cascade spread to the other ships in the fleet, their drives creating a chain reaction that lit up the solar system like a new star. Inside the Retribution, the crew felt the universe twist around them. Alex's calculations had been perfect. The ship existed in a bubble of normal space-time while reality shattered beyond their hull. They watched through the view screens as 7 of the most powerful warships ever built were reduced to quantum foam in less than a minute. Then, impossibly, they were floating in normal space again. Earth hung before them, blue and beautiful, while the wreckage of the Kaleth fleet drifted in expanding clouds of debris. "Status report," Sujin ordered, hardly daring to believe they had survived. "All systems functional," Hong reported, his voice filled with amazement. "The quantum bubble protected us completely. Alex's calculations were perfect." Dr. Seyram looked up from her station where the AI's lights were pulsing in what could only be described as joy. "Alex says welcome home." Admiral Park's voice came over the communication system, filled with disbelief and relief. "Captain Sujin, this is Admiral Park. The Kaleth fleet has been completely destroyed. Earth is safe." The celebration that followed lasted for days. The crew of the Retribution had saved not just Earth, but humanity's future among the stars.